And if you fuck with ICE, fucking leave a message, leave a comment. We'll fucking get you on the show.
We're gonna get someone that fucks with ICE on the show.
Yeah. We're gonna beat your ass.
Talks and strange thoughts, become enlightened.
We created a platform where we discuss important issues. A platform where we touch on topics that impact our daily lives.
We touch on anything, whether it's trending or something we want to shed some light on. In the city or around the world, don't matter.
We deleted the whole thing, so we gotta start from scratch. Is that refreshing?
There's no law when you're drinking claws. Rumor has it. I don't know about that. What's good, Octagon?
What's good, Chacho? I'm chilling.
You're bulling.
Cooling.
Bulling in the cut. Yes, talks and strange thoughts. Talks and strange thoughts.
What do we have today?
That's a good question. Today, we want to bring awareness to what's happening in ICE detention centers and what's happening to just undocumented immigrants in general. Today as we're recording, it's September 17, 2020. It's Thursday. Well, this Monday, there was a whistleblower, a nurse who worked at a detention center. She whistleblowed on all these things that were happening in detention centers.
Yeah, so let me expand on what she was actually whistleblowed. So, an immigration detention center in Georgia allegedly performed questionable mass hysterectomies, refused to test detainees for COVID-19, shredded medical records according to a nurse who filed a whistleblower complaint to the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, Inspector General on Monday. Prior to her whistleblow, she had been demoted because she was asking hard questions about testing detained immigrants for COVID-19 and warning officers when detained immigrants are in contact, asking officers when detained immigrants they are in contact with have tested positive. So she was asking all the right questions. She was trying to figure it out, and she saw this procedures being done, and she decided that she couldn't stay silent, so she went out to the public. What do you think about her?
Yeah, so she's a hero, Ms. Wooten. She didn't have to go ahead and tell, reporters what was happening because it wasn't affecting her directly. She found out, like, she took it from the heart. She saw what was going on and said it wasn't right. And we should applaud her for that because not many nurses or people in general are willing to put their job at risk, for speaking out on issues like that. You said she was demoted for asking questions, just imagine what else these people are going through in these detention centers that, when you ask yourself, like, why is it so important? Why is ICE so important?
Yeah, so we're gonna touch on some of the conditions that maybe she was also asking those questions to her leadership at the detention centers. But just to be clear, the forced sterilization is something that has happened in this country, and it's been very sexist and racist, often linked to like population control. So it's mostly affected Black and brown women, immigrant women, indigenous people over time. So this forced sterilization is nothing new. It's just now continuing to the most vulnerable in our society, which are those that are being held in detention centers for being asylum seekers and immigrants and refugees.
Yeah, so she is putting it on the line, everything, honestly. Wooten, she's represented by the Government Accountability Project, a whistleblower protection organization, Project South, a social justice advocacy group. So she's over here working with these groups that help out whistleblowers for speaking out and asking questions.
Yeah, so we've seen actually in the past where whistleblowers have been prosecuted by the federal government for exposing secrets,
Getting fired.
being put in jail. Uh, not many good things happen to whistleblowers that expose what the government is doing. Edward Snowden is out in Russia for exposing mass surveillance. So she's doing the same. She's doing similar work, exposing our government, for these horrific crimes. And I don't think many people will do what she did. Put herself out there.
It's like if you're put in that position, your conscience is telling you, hey, this isn't right. Often many people turn their back on that, just ignore that and just look away because they are scared to speak out.
Yeah, or they'll think like, well, is it something? What can I do about it? It's being done in the government's name. It's being done under a government agency. So I feel like many people will just accept it for what it is. Will probably be like, that's so fucked up. Some people might quit their job. Others will continue working there for the paycheck. But she decided to go to the press and make it an issue. And I mean, thankfully for her, now we have people talking about what is going on there, including government officials that want to know exactly what the conditions at these ICE centers.
Right. So a good question, I guess we should ask ourselves, what is ICE? When did they start? Why did it start?
So ICE was created under the Department of Homeland Security, and the Department of Homeland Security was created in 2001 in response to the 9/11 attacks. Our government decided to create an agency and a few agencies to protect our national security against terrorism, threats from abroad that are gonna attack the mainland. And under the Department of Homeland Security, ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, was put under that agency. So the reasoning of ICE establishment had to do with terrorism. The philosophy behind it also represented a change in the U.S. government's view on immigrants. Immigration matters prior to the Department of Homeland Security being created usually fell under the jurisdiction of Department of Commerce, Department of Labor, because immigrants usually come here for jobs and stuff. So why not put them why not put the process of them in the country under a department that handles work and stuff. But with the creation of ICE, they were not put under an agency that deals with terrorism. And so now our country focused on immigrants and those coming in as terrorists first, as a threat first, and
Rather than someone seeking asylum.
Yeah, so
Did I say it right?
asylum, yeah.
Asylum. Yeah, so the ACLU, just to put it into perspective, they have an article and it says, in the 80s, there were fewer than 2,000 people locked up in detention centers. The number increased from 7,000 to 32,000 from 1995 to 2016. At one point last year in 2019, there were up to 56,000 people locked up. So more and more undocumented immigrants are getting arrested and being held hostage in these detention centers. Why?
Yeah, well,
That's the question we should be asking. Like, why are they over here getting locked up?
yeah, why did it grow so much from the 80s to where we're at now? It's been, 40 years? Part of it is because of the rise of mass incarceration in the country. We have now, we have the private prison industry, the private detention industry, now looking to, now just profiting off people being in jail.
Right.
So we had the explosive growth of the U.S. immigration detention system tracks the rise of mass incarceration in America, prompted by punitive legislation passed by Congress in the 90s around the same time as the crime bill that also locked up many people in the state, African Americans, Hispanic people. Since then, the number of detained immigrants in the U.S. has grown nearly every year under Democrats and Republicans administrations alike. So the correlation is that when you have private prisons, people make money off of it. Now there's an incentive to jail people into prisons, into detention centers. And now ICE operates with private prisons together to bring in immigrants, bring in asylum seekers into their facilities, because there's money to be made now, and so there's a correlation between the money that's being made and the amount of people that are being put in prisons and into these immigration detention centers.
Right. Corporations are profiting off misery and violence caused by ICE detentions. 81% of the people in ICE detention centers are in facilities owned or operated by private providers. But that number jumped to 91% when you look at facilities open under Trump. So it's just like they see this new wave of making money off people, off prisons, all these for-profit prisons that just benefit and get rich. You know, you look in California, you have a lot of detention centers, but even then, like all the prisons, all the inmates that work as firefighters and get, paid $2 a day or whatever, or $2 an hour or whatever, and it just goes to show you that like they just want to profit off the people.
So these private prisons, they are run privately with cooperation of our government, in particular ICE, and they have passed on some responsibility to these private prisons because it is just cheaper to get them to run it while they make money off of it. And that's the reason why people are being treated in pretty bad conditions and they get treated like shit in there, because now there's an incentive to make money. Now there's an incentive to cut the resources that are needed to maintain the people there. So what are some of the... So we talk about the private prisons, the reason why... So the private prisons are why the conditions are so bad, because it's a business, more revenue, cut the cost of what you need to take care of the people in there. So what are some of the conditions of ICE detention centers?
Dog. So recently, after Hurricane Laura hit, after it hit Southeast Texas and Louisiana, it actually cut the power out in several detention centers, ICE detention centers in Louisiana, leaving the detainees without power, without AC, without water. Many of them had to sleep near toilets filled with feces and blood, and it's just not right. They're profiting so much money off the people.
Yeah, the conditions are so bad that people in the detention centers are actually going on hunger strikes. They're pretty much willing to die because of the conditions that they are being put under. There's this guy called, in this article, his name's Jose Mendez, an immigrant held at Adelanto, near Victorville in California. Mendez said detainees had asked for their own mask, gloves, and cleaning supplies to protect against the virus, and facilities staff promised they'd get some, but they were never delivered. The 38-year-old had grown increasingly concerned about the virus, particularly because he has high blood pressure and diabetes. He wanted to get out but didn't have a lawyer. 2 days later, Mendez and other detainees in his pod complained to guards who weren't wearing masks about the lack of protection against the virus. He said their complaints were never addressed. We all collectively decided that we'd start a hunger strike if they won't change. If one person becomes infected, we all do. So that's what is happening in facilities all around the country, immigration detention facilities. Immigrant people in the facilities are going on a hunger strikes, meaning they're willing to risk their lives as well, because there's no other way to demand or to get what you want. If you're willing to die of hunger, then that's what they're willing to do.
Yeah, so my girl AOC, she tweeted, "It's astounding how the massive family separation operation, mass sexual assault of detainees, trapping immigrants in COVID infected detention centers, and now reports of mass hysterectomies, which the U.S. has done before, abolishing ICE is so controversial. Where is the line?" And she has a point. Like they go through so much. It's so frustrating how people just turn their back on people just because they came here looking for a better opportunity. They came here looking for the American dream, and they're over here being punished.
Yeah. So when people go on hunger strike in immigrant jails and prisons, it is a last resort, and they're willing to put their bodies on the line for a shot at freedom. In one particular case in LaSalle Detention Center, 5 South Asian asylum seekers began a hunger strike for freedom. Through the course of this strike, the men on the hunger strike were subjected to force feeding and forced hydration. This is a quote from one of the people there. "I have never in my entire life lived like this inside 4 walls, nor am I accustomed to living in imprisonment. I do not know how long my asylum case will take, which is why I want to fight my case from outside this prison. I only have one demand. I want freedom, and I want to fight my case from outside." So these people did not commit any crimes. They came into the country seeking asylum for whatever reason it is. The country, the U.S. usually allows them to their case to be heard. But with private prisons now, it's been easy to take these people that are coming into the country, put them into these detention centers, fill up those prisons, make some money off of them while they are sitting in there in horrible conditions that they didn't ask for, that they shouldn't be in.
They shouldn't be in there. And it's not like you're talking about, yeah, let's lock them up there while we make this money and let them out in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Some of these cases are over 6 months. People get separated from their kids.
With the conditions, despite the growth of immigration detention centers in the past 30 years, there has no regulations or enforceable standards regarding detention conditions, including medical treatment, mental health care, religious services, transfers, and access to telephones, free legal services, library materials. In fact, the vast majority of detainees were never receive legal representation, which makes it more difficult not only to succeed in adversarial immigration proceedings, but also to complain about a substandard treatment.
Yeah, and when you say mental health, we've seen videos of children finally being reunited with their parents, and the look of that the kids give their parents is just, they don't show any emotion. They're just there. They don't even know how to act. And this is because of nights, months of just crying themselves to sleep, asking themselves, "Oh, where did my mom go? Where did my dad go?" And just, how are you gonna fix that? You can't.
Yeah, the trauma that it's causing for the immigrant population is fucked up, honestly. Like it's really fucked up. Now you have a whole generation and a group of people now that are dealing with these deportations, these treatments in these ICE facilities. We have, and not just that, the immigrant population as a whole, because not ICE, the detention centers of ICE are horrible, and then that's probably the worst part of it. But there's another part too that happens outside of detention centers, which is what happens in immigrant communities around the country. We have millions of undocumented people in the country that have to deal with removals as well. We have immigration and customs enforcement ICE officers going into churches, they're going to the people's work, they're going into their jobs, they're going to their court hearings, and they're going anywhere where immigrant would be, anywhere where anybody in society has to stop at some point in their life, and just to face an immigration officer that is going to deport them. Or
Yeah, and the tactics that that ICE uses to intimidate people is so fucking annoying. They're over here in these marked vehicles, patrolling, just trying to antagonize people.
Not only do undocumented people in this country just come here to work, they're being treated like shit at work as well. Their working conditions are not well because because they are undocumented. Their employer knows they're undocumented, so now they have to not only deal with ICE, who is raiding these places that I stated: schools, work, people's workplace, where people go worship, and courts, to get immigrants.
So you're over here minding your own business, following the law, going to work, being part of the economy, and it's a normal day at work and ICE just pulls up.
Last year, right before school started, there's this plant in Mississippi, a meatpacking plant in Mississippi, where federal authorities detained more than 680 people. One of the largest worksite operations ever conducted by ICE. And I remember seeing some of the videos of the kids. They had just started school, and 680 people. That's somebody's mom. That's somebody's dad. The kids were crying, and that's traumatizing for them to know or to hear that their dad has just been taken at work while they're at school.
You see all these elementary kids crying at school, asking, not even comprehending what just happened. They're like, oh, where's my dad? Where's my mom?
And it sucks that it happens to people. But just the thought of it, that it might happen to your family is scary for the undocumented community itself. Hoping that your parents don't ever get taken, and when it actually does happen, that just is very just traumatizing all around, and so they're already living in fear, and when it actually happens, like, wow, it happened, like, now you have ripped apart a family.
Yeah, so they're living in fear. They're getting treated like shit at work. Most of these undocumented immigrants are scared to speak out. Oh, okay, you're undocumented, you're fired. I'll fire you. Where are you gonna work at? Who's gonna give you work? Who's gonna give you, a job? Oh, what? You want to speak out you want to speak out that I'm paying you $2 an hour? Well, let me just call ICE.
It's true. That shit happens. They hold your status against you, and they won't pay you. They'll pay you less. They'll treat you like shit at work, give you bad working conditions. When you want to speak up, they'll threaten you with retaliation. They'll threaten you with ICE. So now we have a group of vulnerable people being treated like this at work, having to deal with ICE that might raid them at the workplace. Their boss is treating them like shit. ICE will raid them, but ICE will not do anything to the employers for hiring them. They basically get off scot-free for hiring undocumented workers, while undocumented workers are taking the heat of it all. Like, the laws after them, their employers treating them like shit. They might get sent to an immigration detention center where they're even treated more like shit. Their families are being broken up, traumatized.
And the employer walks away with his hands clean. Like, obviously, if you own a company and you have over 600 employees that you know you're paying way under the minimum wage, you know who you hired, right? And this goes back to our president, like Trump. He's over here claiming, immigrants come here to steal jobs, but he's over here hiring undocumented immigrants as well.
Yeah, I mean,
why? To save money. To save money, they use undocumented immigrants. They treat them like shit, and at the end of the day, they're the ones that is driving the nation. Like, who's over here working in the plants in California? Like, over here at the freaking fields when the mountains are burning. Horrible conditions. For what?
to get paid less than the average person here, to deal with the threat that no one in this country really has to deal with, to be scapegoated by politicians and others that want to appeal to like racists and stuff that dislike immigrants, that know that they can get them some votes, are the same ones that will go and hire these undocumented immigrants, because at the end of the day it's all about the money. So whatever costs them less amount of money, whatever makes them more money, that's what they care about. Trump himself, he's not trying to pay his workers. He hires undocumented people.
Hires undocumented people, is talking about making the economy better in the U.S., but has his hats made in China. And the hypocrisy is just laughable at this point, like everything that's happening is just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, so it's just very unfair that so why is someone like Trump not going to get held accountable? Why is not just Trump, but why are all these big employers that hire immigrant workers? There's these construction sites that hire undocumented workers, big companies that hire undocumented workers, Walmart, hotel industry, everywhere hire them just for these undocumented workers to be rated at their workplace, just for their employer to get off scot-free, with nothing on them, not even a slap on the wrist. They're gonna go on with as business as usual while they just ruined hundreds of undocumented people's families, like this one in Mississippi, meatpacking plant, 680 people rounded up by ICE, while most likely the employer that hired them is not going to pay any consequence for hiring them. It's a two-tier system. The people that have it all, the ones that are making the money, they basically live above the law, and those with the least, and those that are most vulnerable, the full extent of the law is being used against them and ruining their lives and their kids' lives. And
you know what's even more fucked up about that is that they'll probably go ahead and hire another 600 people, undocumented immigrants.
Yep.
Because they want to save on that money.
Yep, and it's just like, and it's the money. So like, the private prisons are wanting to round up more people, meaning force ICE to go round more people up, whether they committed a crime or not, whether they're just living here in this country illegally, working a job, have a family. Like, sometimes they don't even take that into consideration. They want people in their prisons. They want to make that money. So just keep rounding people up. And
yeah, so fuck ICE. If you stand for ICE, fuck you. I don't fuck with you. Talks and Strange Thoughts don't fuck with you if you fuck with ICE.
Yeah, we do not fuck with ICE here. Like, ICE needs to go. ICE has been here since 2003. It's probably everyone that's watching this, mostly everyone that's watching this is older than ICE. But we have got so used to accepting whatever our government does without having any pushback. I'm glad people are pushing back on this. The whistleblower, thank God for her. She's exposing them. put it out there in the front for everyone to see. What is your opinion on it? Do you agree or disagree? If you disagree, maybe you should speak up.
Let your voices heard, because we should this topic should be bigger than it actually is, but it's not, unfortunately, because the people who are impacted the most don't have a voice. They're scared to bring awareness to this topic because the awareness goes back to them. Oh, more attention, I might get deported. I'd rather just lay low, continue to get treated like shit. Why? Because even though I'm getting treated like shit, getting paid like shit here, it's better, it's more money than where I'm from.
But it's more opportunity for my kids, so I'm willing to deal with whatever that this country is going to put me through than going back to where I'm from to give my kids a better opportunity, a better chance. And so they're willing to do that. They're willing to stay low key in the shadows in the country, while some of us just stay, and some of us either just turn a blind eye to it or try to help them out, or try to amplify the voices and try to amplify their own problems that they are dealing with.
Talks and strangest thoughts.
Yeah, man, that's fucking stressful, dude.
It's fucking annoying, and we're hitting on topics that we need to talk on, because it's not right, it's not fair for regular people to be treated like this, to be put in situations where they have to keep quiet, or else they're getting sexually abused, they're getting these procedures done without their consent, without their understanding, and at the end of the day, we still use them everyday life. All the vegetables, all the fruit that's in the stores is because of them. Talks and Strange Thoughts. Follow, share, like, subscribe, comment, tell your friend, tell your mom, everything.
Tell us what you think about this topic.
And if you fuck with ICE, fucking leave a message, leave a comment. We'll fucking get you on the show.
We're gonna get someone that fucks with ICE on the show.
Yeah. We're gonna beat your ass.
Dead ass. Fuck whoever fucks with ICE. Fuck whoever fucks with the status quo, bro. Like, this shit is fucked up. Like, my guys, my women, like, if y'all are not speaking out on this shit that we see every day, that if you don't even have an opinion on it, like, man, do some research. Like, this shit is not good.
We're at the point where, like,
silence is really is betrayal to everything that.
Honestly, and we're at the point where the excuse of, oh, it's because I don't pay attention to politics. It's like, bro, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Wake the fuck up. Acknowledge that what's going around you is not right, and take some action.
Yeah, just stand for something. Like, what do you stand for?
Until next time. Adios.